Hey guys, and welcome to today's video where I'm going to be talking about my top 10 favorite books of 2024. I am going to go in order of all the books that I read that are in my top 10. So if you guys want to read any of these books or if you've read any of these books, please let me know down in the comments down below because I would love to hear your guys' opinions on these books and what you think of my ranking. One of the books on this list is not a 5-star, but I feel like it had the potential to be a 5-star. And the ending of the book in particular made me feel like I had to put it on this list because it just gave me emotional damage. And I have been thinking about this book literally ever since I read it, and it just needs to be on this list. And that's literally my number 10 spot. And I did put it at number 10 because it was not a 5-star, but I wanted to pay homage to like the emotional impact this book gave to me. And that is the book, The Assassin's Blade by Sarah J. Maas. So one of my goals for next year is to read the entire Throne of Glass series. And I wanted to start with the novella because I do want to go in chronological order. And this book follows Celaena, and it has 5 short novellas talking about what happened to her before the beginning of the Throne of Glass book. I do not want to have any spoilers in this video, so I'm trying to not really say much about the book, but it's basically about this teenage assassin, and she goes on all these little adventures when she's young, and she's trying to get knowledge to become basically a better assassin for her king of the Assassin's Guild. And there is a romance in this book. And the end of this book made me so mad, and I just had to pay homage to the incredible work that Sarah J. Maas did here. I really wanted to pick up Throne of Glass immediately, but I had to wait because it is one of my goals for next year to read that whole series. I don't want to finish the entire series before even starting next year, so I'm gonna give myself a little break and then start it in January. But I really love this book. As you can tell from all of the tabs, cannot recommend this book more. The next book on my list at number 9 is Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintura. Now, this is my favorite audiobook of the year. I believe it is the only thriller on my list that made the top 10 because it is really hard for me to rate thrillers 5 stars. I did read another 5-star thriller this year, but I don't feel like it measures up at all to any of the other books on the list, including this one. This book I listened in one sitting. This was like a 9-hour audiobook on 1.5 speed, and I listened to the entire thing with 1 30-minute break, and that is it. I could not physically stop listening to it. It follows this girl named Lucy who goes to a party with her best friends, and the next day she is found walking along the road with blood on her dress and amnesia, and she doesn't know how her best friend was K-worded. And it is wild. You were going on an entire journey. Everyone thinks that Miss Lucy did it, and she even thinks that she did it. She has no idea, but she is also working with this guy who has a crime podcast who is trying to help her figure out what happened that night. I absolutely love this book. When they have the podcast episodes, they do even like a little podcast, like da-na-na, like a little sound effect to make it feel like a podcast. It was really, really fun. I highly recommend the audiobook for this, but if you do like to read books instead of listening to an audiobook, I still recommend reading it in any capacity. But if you do like audiobooks, this is so good. My favorite audiobook I've ever listened to besides Dungeon Crawler Carl, but this is also very, very good if you were into thrillers. Highly recommend this. My 8th favorite book of the year. Oh, it causes me so much pain to talk about this series. Like, I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. But it's Keeping 13. This is the second book in the Boys of Tommen series. This book is so sad. It follows Johnny and Miss Shannon, and it has a big found family trope. Shannon has a really abusive household. Her father is awful, and Johnny is a rugby player who basically just saves her and her whole family's life. He is just man goals. Okay. I absolutely love this book. There is a terrible event that happens in this book that had me literally screaming at 5 a.m. after just waking up. Like, I was getting up at 4 a.m. to read this book. It is the thickest book I think I read this year. I'm pretty sure this is the longest book I read this year. And it was so good. I just have to warn you that if you do read the Boys of Tommen series, have tissues. This book will hurt you. This is a fantastic read. My 8th favorite book of the year. Ooh, it's part of the Ruinous Love trilogy. Oh my God. Lachlan Kane, the man that he is. He is one of my favorite male characters in any book that I have read. This is also a very excellent audiobook if you do like audiobooks, because it does have dual narration. So Lark has her own voice actress, and then Leather, who is Lachlan Kane, he has his own voice, and they always do their own voice. So if there's a female speaking, the female voice actor will speak. If there's a male speaking, the male voice actor speaks. It's really, really good. I absolutely loved it. It's about a serial killer and all the drama that they go through. And if you've never read Butcher and Blackbird, you wouldn't know who these characters are really. You can read this by itself, but I do recommend that you do read Butcher and Blackbird and then read this book, because it's good to like know every character. And I don't think you would care about the Butcher and Blackbird characters in this if you didn't read their book. And I do really like Butcher and Blackbird, but this one, oh my God. I just really liked Lachlan. He was just such a cool character. He was really funny. He had a lot of like drama going on with Miss Lark, and I really liked how he treated her. It was just like what he did for her that I absolutely loved. He was just so funny. I just love him so much. And that's a me thing. Okay. It's just, I love this man. That's my man, Mr. Lachlan Kane. Okay. I think a lot of people rated this lower than Butcher and Blackbird, which I don't understand why, because this is definitely my favorite one out of both of those. As you can tell, like when I have a lot of tabs, I like a book, and I really enjoyed this one. All right. This is my 6th favorite book. It is Shatter Me by Tahereh Mafi. I read this entire series this year, and it was a roller coaster ride. I don't think any book was below a 4-star for me personally. I really enjoyed Shatter Me. I had a lot of tabs. I read this entire book in one sitting. Could not put it down. There's not a lot of books that make me read it entirely all in one sitting, but this is definitely one of them. Shatter Me is a really fun story about this girl named Juliet who is locked in an insane asylum, and once she gets out, she is trying to basically take down the government that put her there. There's also a love interest in this book. I believe his name is Adam in this one. She has another love interest later on, which is very fun. But I really loved the Shatter Me series. Oh my God, it's so good. I'm putting the first one as my like top one out of all of these books, just because it's the book that was easiest for me to read. And I think it was my favorite out of all of them, even though I didn't love the love interest in this one as much, but I do think it is the best written book out of all of them. But yeah, I absolutely loved Shatter Me. This is definitely a 5-star book for me, and I highly recommend this series. If you like reading young adult fiction, this is definitely a really good book, and I highly recommend it. Okay, now we're starting with my top 5 books. Oh my God, this is so exciting. Most of these I read in like less than 2 sittings. I just powered through these books. This one, oh my God, Scythe by Neal Shusterman. Read this all in one day. I don't think I took any breaks. I read this all in one sitting on a day off. As you can tell from the tabs, all my favorite books have a lot of tabs. I really like Scythe. This book follows Citra and Rowan. They live in a dystopian world where basically the entire world is controlled by an AI. It's called the Thunderhead. And in this world, the only way that you as a human being can actually die is if you are killed by what is called a scythe. And Citra and Rowan, who are our 2 main characters, are apprentices for a scythe to become a scythe, and it's basically their journey on trying to become scythes. And it is very violent, so I really do recommend that if you are not a big fan of violence and just really horrific torture. I would recommend not reading this. This is a very dark series. I did finish the trilogy this year. I would say the third book is definitely the weakest out of all three, but this book, oh my God, it's so good. I have literally no complaints on this book. It was perfect in my opinion. But yeah, this is a really great series, and that is why this book is my number 5, because I just absolutely loved it. The next book, I just love these two characters so much. Magnolia Parks is my number 4 book of the year. I'm actually shocked. I thought this was going to be higher, but I read other books this year and they were better. I'm so sorry. Miss Magnolia. I wish I could rate this higher. But yeah, the rest of the series has not been as good as this book, and it's really unfortunate. I probably would have made this higher if the other books were good, but they're giving 3 stars. Like, they're just not that good. But this book was definitely a 6-star book for me. Absolutely loved it. It follows this girl named Magnolia Parks. She is basically Blair Waldorf. Is that her name? I think so, from Gossip Girl. She's basically Blair from Gossip Girl. And she has this relationship with this man named BJ, and it's very, very toxic. They do a lot of really crazy things to each other. BJ is also constantly cheating on her. It's pretty crazy. I really do love Magnolia, and there's a lot of fashion in this book, which I found very fascinating, to the point where I was like looking up the clothes that she was mentioning in this, and I have no desire to know anything about fashion except when I read the Magnolia Parks books, and I just really, really enjoyed this one, as you can tell from the bajillion tabs that I have. But yeah, love this book. The ending had me sobbing, ugly crying, because I literally had a very similar situation happen to me personally, and so I really related to this book. But yeah, this is a 6-star read for me. Loved it so much. The rest of the series, though, not so great. I'm so sorry. It's the other 2 books were less than 4 stars, and I feel bad. I don't want them to be, but they are. But this is a good book. Oh my God, we're in the top 3. Okay, number 3. I read this when I was on vacation in New York City with my family, and I absolutely loved it. And it is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. Oh my God, look at all the tabs. They're so pretty. I love this book. This follows this couple who basically have this curse that they believe that they have, where anytime they date someone and then break up with them, the person that was their ex will meet the love of their life. And so they decide to date each other to break their curse. It's such a cute story. There's also some trauma in this. I love how Abby Jimenez wrote the trauma, because it was just like, oh, trauma. Okay, cool. Because the main female character in this book is also dealing with her mother, who is absolutely insane. And Justin, who is the main male character in this book, I couldn't get over the fact that he had my last name. That like really freaked me out. I was like, not you having the same last name as me, which kind of made me feel a little icky in the beginning, but I kind of just got over it at the end. But it is a very, very good book if you really like a good summer romance. It did really give summer for me, and they were just so cute, and I loved it. And there was a lot of plot going on. I love a good romance book with plot, and there was a lot of plot going on, and I just really love the banter. I love the characters in general. They're just so cute, and it is very, very entertaining. So this is my number 3 book of the year. 6-star book. Absolutely no notes. I had no complaints. It is very, very good. You should definitely read this if you have not. Icebreaker is my number 2 book of the year, and to be honest, I was really shocked that this made it so high on the list, because if you're looking at it, you're probably thinking cheesy romance novel. No, there is a lot going on in this book, and I loved every single character, every even side character, the villain of the story. Loved them. They were just so entertaining, so lovable, so interesting. There was a lot of things that happened in this that were just funny. Sure, there's smut, and I'm not a big fan of smut in books, really, but this book did it well. I was laughing at some of the smut because it was so weird. There's a scene in this where, I kid you not, he is dressed as Gru, and she's a slutty cheerleader. And guess what they're doing? Something nasty, but it was very, very funny. I loved it. They are so cute. She's an ice skater, and he's a hockey player, and basically basically they have to like share the same rink because there was a prank done on the hockey players' rink, and they are very adorable, and she has to deal with issues with her partner who she skates with. He learns how to figure skate so she can practice to go to the Olympics. This man learns to figure skate for her. If he wanted to, he would. Like, he is the definition of that, Mr. Nate. And he's just so sweet. Like, he'll literally pick her up because it's raining and drive her somewhere because he doesn't want her to walk. Like, do you understand how cute that is? Literally saves her life at one point in this book. It is so good. I absolutely love this book. One of my favorite books of all time. But yeah, this is my number 2 book of the year, and it's so good. Okay, my number 1 book of the year. I'm gonna be honest with you. I had an annotated copy of this book, but my best friend borrowed it from me, and then she wanted to keep it because I drew in it, had lots of tabs. It was just a masterpiece. It was beautiful, and she wanted to keep it, and I wanted to do something nice, so I let her keep it, and she bought me 2 books in exchange. So that was like a nice little gift I gave to her. So I did buy another copy of the book, and I bought the UK edition because I just really like the cover. So I do plan on rereading and re-annotating this book, but it is Happy Place by Emily Henry. This actually became my favorite book of all time when I read it this year. This follows Harriet and Wynne, who are on a vacation with their friends, and they were a couple. They were actually engaged at one point, but then they decided to break up, and they haven't told their friends yet because they were kind of living separate for a little while because Wynne was going through some stuff with his family, and Harriet has a job as a doctor and can't really just leave. She has to stay at her hospital. And they decided to break up after an event happened, which I don't want to spoil for anybody. They're on this group trip with their friends, and their friends tell them that they want to get married, and they think it's just not the right time to break it to their friends that they broke up, so they're pretending to be together. And it is a very cool story. There's a lot of drama between both of them because they both have issues with each other that they just haven't talked it out and haven't worked it out with each other. The two just haven't worked it out with each other, and they really just need to basically hash out their issues. There's a lot of plot in this book, and I just really enjoyed getting to know these characters. I enjoyed the entire ride this story brought me on. This is my favorite book of all time. All right, so thank you guys for watching me talk about my top 10 favorite books of 2024. The year isn't actually over. I still have 2 weeks left of December, but I don't think I'm going to read any books better than these books, and I am going to be quite busy the last 2 weeks of the year. I'll probably only read like 1 or 2 more books this year, to be honest, but I did really enjoy all of these books. I think I've read 101 books so far this year. I did reach my goal of reading 100 books. I believe my video about that and like my reading vlog of me reading my 100th book came out before this. And as you can tell, I read a lot, and these are some of the best books I will probably ever read. And I highly recommend these books so much. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys leave a like on this video and comment down below if you've read any of these books and what your thoughts are on the books, because I would love to hear your opinions. And hit subscribe if you have not subscribed yet, because you should. It's free. Why not? You know, helps me, helps you. Please subscribe. Love you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.